Okay, in this training, you are going to learn the two common newbies mistakes in domain investment, the most common mistakes that newbies make in domain investment. So this is going to save you months of effort because most people start domain investment and after some period they will give up because they're not getting results, not knowing that they don't have the access to the right information, which is especially these two mistakes that newbies make. So the number one mistake that newbies make is that they chase domains that sounds nice and not strategic domain names. So chasing domains that sounds nice and not strategic domain names. It is common, especially personally, when I started this business, I had no access to mentorship, and it was very rough. And one of the domains that I registered, I think that should be my second domain, was um, laundry service provider. So laundry service provider.com. I registered that domain name and I was expecting somebody to just pay $500 for it, but I couldn't sell the domain. Why? Because the domain is just something that sounds nice to me. I was like, wow, laundry service provider. This is a domain that anybody that is offer laundry service across the globe should be interested in. But I was wrong because a domain sounds nice to you doesn't if a domain sounds nice to a domain sounding nice to you doesn't mean that it's going to sound nice to somebody else. So that is why if you want to register a domain for the purpose of selling, it should be a domain that is strategic, that brings value to the table of your potential buyer. You understand? So your domain should solve a problem. And how does it solve a problem? It can only solve a problem if it meets some certain criteria. And number one criteria is that the domain should be relevant. Number one is that the domain should be relevant. The domain should be relevance. So relevance, that's number one criteria. So your domain should be relevant. Now, how do you check if your domain is relevant? So number one is that you can check if your domain is relevant by just googling the domain keyword. So this is called domain keyword, right from here to here. Before the .com, the .com is the extension, so it can be .com.net. But the best, as a newbie, just make sure you are focusing on .com. So laundry service provider is the domain keyword. So you have to check the keyword relevance. Is this keyword relevant? If it is relevant, people will definitely want to pay for it. So how do you check your domain relevant? Number one is that you just, like I said, you Google it. You Google the keyword laundry service provider, and you see how many times is it something companies are using more often in their domain, in their company in their company website. If it is a keyword that appears often in a company website, that shows that okay, this domain actually has value. It is not something that people will be like, we don't need this. You understand? So if it appears often on Google, then that is what that gives birth to what that give out to SV, search volume. That is what I give out to what, to search volume. So another method that you can use to check if the domain keyword is relevant is by using namebio.com. So namebio.com is like a library for domain sales that has happened over the years. So you can just go to namebio.com and put this keyword laundry service, or you can also put provider. So you can put laundry service, check how many domains was sold in the past that has the keyword in it. Then you check for provider, how many domains was sold that has provider in it. Then if there are enough results and you see that the prices that was sold for make sense, then that shows that the keywords are also relevant in the domain market. You can as well search everything combined. So that shows that those keywords are relevant in the domain market. Now let's move to number two mistake that newbies make. So the number two mistake that newbies make is what? Not attracting buyers. People register domain names now and they list it on marketplace and they're waiting for buyers to come. That is very possible, and I've sold domain with that method. I register domain, put it on marketplace, and after some days, some months, some years, I get the domain sold. So that is called any domain that happens with you not going to buyers come to you, is called inbound. So that's called inbound, and the opposite is outbound. So inbound is when you register your domain, nothing you make no effort after you have researched your domain by following the domain relevance, go everything. You register your domain, you list it for sale on a marketplace, like for example, a marketplace Afternic, you listed it on Afternic, and you got the domain sold. With no extra effort after researching and listing for sale. That is called an inbound sale. But if you try to market it yourself to buyer, it's called an outbound sale. So when you make sales through an inbound, definitely logically you should know that okay, you listed your domain on, let's say, Afternic for $1,000, and like I said, inbound, the buyer comes, that means you are selling it for that $1,000, except only if you allow make offer. So that means a domain through inbound is most likely to sell higher than a domain through outbound. You understand? So we said number 2 is that newbies make the mistake of not attracting buyers. Attracting buyers not only when you are marketing your domain, no. Inbound too, you can sell a domain inbound too by attracting buyers. So the only difference is that in inbound, if you want to attract buyers in inbound, is that your domain must be a buyer attracting domain. Let me write that. Let me write it. Or let's say buyers attracting domain, or we can call that domain an attractive domain. For example, somebody listed market.com on dan.com. So dan.com is a marketplace. So somebody listed market.com on dan.com. So the person thought he registered market.com, not knowing that he did a mistake. So out of that mistake, he just listed that domain for sale on dan.com for $5,000. Within minutes, the domain got sold. That domain is called an attractive domain, a buyer's attracting domain, because anybody wants to market.com. That is a huge domain. There's somebody listed it for $5,000. Everybody would want to pick that domain up. That is a buyer's attracting domain name, a domain that brings buyer itself. You understand? That brings buyer itself. So you can get that domain by what? By doing thorough research. You check the relevance, the everything, thorough research. So that is called a buyer's attracting domain, and that is what I teach in my mentorship. Then another one is what is a domain that is also an attractive domain, but it still needs time to sell, because any attractive domain does have their own, every single domain have their own period of selling. You understand? It's not constant. A domain can sell within few hours, few minutes, few days, weeks, years. We have domain that sold after like 28 years, but that sales must worth it. That sales must worth those years of waiting. Imagine waiting for 28 years to sell a domain for $28,000. That is the domain that was the years of waiting. So buyers attracting domain have their own time of selling. It could be a few minutes. In my own experience, I sold the domain, a buyer's attracting domain, after 12 days. So some can be like after months, years. You understand? So this kind of domain is what I teach my mentorship, how to research and find this kind of domain names. Then a domain being a buyer's attracting domain doesn't mean that you should also wait for the right buyer to come if you are looking for cash flow. Because as you are getting started, you need to get quick return on investment so that you can continue investing. So if you are looking for a cash flow as a newbie, because newbies are prone to giving up as quick as possible. You understand? So as a newbie, you should not wait for buyer. Even if your domain is a buyer attracting domain, you have to make that quick sale. So that is where we call it outbound marketing. So you try to reach out to buyers. Outbound marketing, you try to reach out to buyers through different means as possible. And this is exactly what I teach in my mentorship, how to find buyers attracting domain and how to sell those domain through outbound marketing. So if you're interested, you can just check my domain this video description on how to get started with my mentorship. Chill out.